Most people quit right before the transformation begins. They pray for a breakthrough, but refuse to endure the waiting room. They bury a seed and expect a harvest by morning. The moment life grows silent, difficult, or painful, they assume nothing is working. They measure themselves against others, lose courage, and surrender before their appointed season arrives. Yet, life operates on a hidden principle. Those who remain steadfast through the drought are the ones who eventually feast. My name is Kale, and this is the story of a donkey that rewired an entire town's understanding of patience. In a sun-scorched settlement, there lived a struggling farmer named Eben. He owned nothing impressive: a crumbling hut, a few rusty tools, and a single aging donkey called Miracle. Miracle was not swift like a stallion. He wasn't magnificent to look at. His frame was frail, his coat dusty, and people chuckled whenever they saw him plodding through the narrow lanes. The townsfolk constantly taunted Eben. Why cling to that worthless creature? He's ancient. He drags behind everyone. Sell him for scraps. But Eben would merely smile and say, "Slowness is not the same as uselessness." Each dawn, before the sun rose, Eben strapped small sacks of produce onto Miracle's back and trekked to the distant market. The route was brutal. Jagged stones, scorching heat, and riders on horses always arrived far sooner. Eben earned barely a handful of coins. Some evenings, he came back with unsold goods. Some nights, dinner was a memory. One dusk, after another crushing day, Eben slumped outside his door, eyes hollow with defeat. "I labor without end," he murmured, "and still nothing shifts." Just then, Miracle ambled over and gently pressed his muzzle against Eben's shoulder. A sad smile broke through. "At least you see me." The following morning, Eben decided to try an unfamiliar route. Instead of racing with the crowd, he picked a winding mountain trail.
People called him insane. The path was rugged and perilous. "Your donkey is already a snail," they jeered, "and now you choose a longer road?" Eben tuned them out. Mountain air felt thin, and the sun punished each step. Yet he kept moving. As they climbed, Eben noticed something peculiar. Wild fruit trees flourished all along the trail. Thirsty, hungry travelers passed constantly, yet no one sold provisions there because everyone clung to the faster main road. Eben paused, thoughts churning. The next trip, he packed water and fresh fruit alongside his vegetables. While crossing the high path, exhausted travelers gladly paid him. For the first time in months, Eben returned home with a jingling pocket. Have you ever experienced a breakthrough when you least expected? Weeks unfolded. Gradually, travelers began waiting for Eben on that mountain route. They trusted his punctuality, his gentle manner, his consistent arrival every single day. Meanwhile, merchants on the main road battled fierce competition. Prices crashed, arguments flared, and many returned home bitter. But Eben kept walking the slow trail with Miracle, day after day, season after season. One afternoon, a wealthy trader journeying through the mountains witnessed Eben stooping to help an injured stranger without asking for payment.
The trader observed as Miracle stood motionless, bearing heavy loads without a flicker of complaint. Deeply impressed, the trader said, "You carry a rare spirit." Eben shrugged. Life pressed patience into my bones. Every trial carved me into someone who could carry more. The trader then proposed, "I need a trustworthy courier to move goods across these ridges every week." Most refuse because the terrain is harsh. Will you accept? Eben nodded without hesitation. That modest yes rewired his destiny. Over the next several years, Eben quietly accumulated enough to expand his land, mend his roof, and live with calm dignity. But he never abandoned Miracle. Even when respect flowed toward him, Eben still walked alongside that donkey each morning. One day, a young boy tugged his sleeve. "How did you become so successful?" Eben glanced at Miracle, eyes shining. "Because of him." The boy frowned. "But he's just a donkey." Eben knelt. "No, he's the reason I learned how to wait." He added, "Slow steps still reach the summit. Quiet persistence always arrives." Years later, a ferocious storm lashed the region. Torrents washed away the main road entirely. Commerce collapsed. Farmers dependent on the fast route lost everything overnight. But the mountain path Eben had faithfully walked remained intact, anchored on bedrock. Now the entire community depended on Eben's route for food and supplies. The same voices that once mocked Miracle now stood silent, watching Eben lead his loaded donkey through the pass, delivering hope to every doorstep. One elder bowed his head. "We judged him for being slow." Eben answered softly, "The world scorns patience because it cannot foresee the harvest." That evening, Eben sat beneath the stars with Miracle, who had grown terribly old, his gait feeble. Eben stroked his dusty forehead. "You hauled more than vegetables," he whispered. "You shouldered my dreams when no one else believed." A few mornings later, Miracle passed away peacefully, beside the very trail they had trodden for a lifetime. Eben laid him to rest under a broad acacia overlooking the valley. Townspeople gathered because by then, everyone knew the story of the patient donkey. At the grave, Eben planted a wooden plaque carved with these words: "The quick may arrive early, but the steadfast arrive fortified." And therein lies the lesson. Patience isn't passive idleness. It's motion sustained when outcomes are veiled. Most people sabotage their future because they cannot tolerate temporary discomfort. Why do we abandon ship just before land appears? They bail too fast. They pivot too soon. They panic when life decelerates. Yet triumph rarely hinges on talent or velocity. Victory belongs to the one who simply declines to quit. A tree drinks years of silence before bearing fruit. A river sculpts stone not through force, but through constancy. And much like Miracle the donkey, sometimes the most unhurried voyage forges the most resilient existence. If your path feels sluggish right now, do not abandon hope. Your patience may be constructing something magnificent beyond your sightline. The unseen roots are what anchor the tallest tree. If this narrative resonated, please tap like and share your own story of waiting in the comments. We'd love to hear how patience shaped your life. This is Winds of Thought. Stay curious, stay grounded.